We are Anka. Stay tuned for updated real news.
Hello, Anka Daily News viewers. We're back with developments that could shift the balance on the battlefield. Tensions continue to escalate in the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia. But this time, the spotlight falls on an attempt that defied both military logic and convention. An unorthodox plan of attack carried out with equally unorthodox means has ended before it even began. Russia's latest offensive, a bold operation involving an armoured train, has not only failed, but descended into what can only be described as a complete fiasco. This rare attempt marks one of the most unconventional manoeuvres since the war began, but thanks to Ukraine's sharp foresight and swift counteraction, the plan was neutralised almost instantly. Intelligence from the field reveals that Kiev had anticipated the move, laying out a defence that not only halted the train, but left it largely destroyed. This is more than a failed assault. It's a clear sign that Russia's battlefield strategies are being squeezed. But why did Moscow resort to such a measure? What were the specifics of the operation? How did Ukraine detect and dismantle the threat so quickly? And most importantly, what impact could this have on the broader dynamics of the front line? We'll unpack all these questions in just a moment. From the moment the wheels turned to the point the plan derailed, we've gathered exclusive details from the ground. If you're ready, let's take a closer look at one of the most extraordinary and ill-fated moments of this war. Before we get to our report, though, a quick reminder. The Anka Daily News team is definitely real. Neither me nor any of my colleagues are artificial intelligence. Even though AI is very advanced, it's still not as good as us. So don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our daily reports and explanations. We do read all the comments you leave on our videos, so please continue to share your ideas about our content. Tell us in the comments what content you'd like to see on the Anka Daily News channel. And now let us begin if you're ready. Anka Daily News reports. Darkness was about to fall. The grey sky of Donbass was silent, like a harbinger of war. The wind blew gently, howling intermittently as it passed through piles of rubble in the distance. But the silence would soon be broken by the scream of metal and the shaking of earth. After months of unsuccessful ground attacks, the Russian army had developed a new strategy. Officers in the shadows ran their fingers over maps, studying the railroad lines that overlapped with satellite images. The plan was simple but bold. A Soviet-era locomotive would be armoured with thick steel plates, mounted with heavy machine guns and an anti-drone system, and then the train would proceed directly to the Ukrainian defence line for a sudden frontal breach. Codename Iron Fist. In the early hours of the morning, preparations began quietly in an industrial town near the Dnipro River. In an old repair shed, a rusted locomotive had been armoured overnight. Weld marks were visible on each plate. It looked rushed, but solid. With the weapon systems mounted on top, this train had been resurrected like a ghost of the past. The commander, Lieutenant Colonel Gromov, spoke over the radio. The operation begins. Everyone get ready. This train will make history today. As the train began to move slowly along the tracks in the darkness of the night, its occupants kept their eyes fixed ahead. The sharply angled piece of metal armor welded to the nose of the train was designed to crush everything in its path, like a battering ram. As they moved forward, the surrounding silence grew. There was no movement on the Ukrainian side, but this was the calm before the storm. The armoured train entered the predetermined zone at 4:27 in the morning. 3 kilometers from the Ukrainian defense line, the train's radar systems were activated. Commander Gromov looked ahead with pride. "Nobody expects anything like this," he said. "Tomorrow, we control this line." But there was something Gromov did not know. Ukrainian intelligence had been signaling this attack for weeks. A leak had revealed the existence of the train project. The Ukrainian army had prepared a special trap along the route of the train. High-powered thermobaric mines were carefully placed under the tracks, and optical sensors for drone surveillance were installed around the perimeter. It was 4:34 when the train entered this line of death. The first explosion uprooted the rear carriage. As 2 tons of armour fragments flew into the air, the train suddenly slowed down. Before the soldiers inside could realise what had happened, the second explosion came. The side of the locomotive caught fire. There was ammunition inside. All it took was a spark, and that spark came. The sound of the explosion was heard for miles around. The train turned into a ball of flames, a giant smoking bomb on the tracks. Flames lit up the railroad track, turning night into day. Ukrainian soldiers watched from a distance. The image from the thermal cameras was clear. The heart of the armoured train had stopped. Disappointment was spreading on the Russian side. The radios were silent. In the morning, Ukrainian troops entered the area. The burning wreckage was still hot. The ammunition that remained among the shattered armour was destroyed in a controlled manner. A Ukrainian soldier looked at the burning remains of the train and shook his head from side to side. Was this the Soviet legacy? The ghost of the past is finally buried. The Ukrainian General Staff issued a statement after this success. The enemy tried to bring the tactics of the past into today's war, but there is no place for ghosts in this war. That day, the world press started talking about the armoured train disaster. Russia's hopeful initiative once again revealed both technological inadequacies and intelligence weaknesses. Very few soldiers survived inside the locomotive. The operation was a fiasco, and a fiasco in flames. While the Kremlin remained silent about the operation, a phrase began to circulate on Russian military forums on social media. The armoured train passed, but the mind derailed. Operation Iron Fist was an attempt by the Russian military to create a turning point on the battlefield, but it has once again demonstrated the importance of modern war technology and intelligence. The grey skies of Donbass, with the first rays of the morning, illuminated not only the wreckage, but also the useless dreams of the past. There was no room for nostalgia in war. The Soviet ghost of an armoured train had vanished in the face of modern Ukrainian defences. Commander Gromov's promise that "we will make history" was buried in the burnt rubble by the railroad tracks. The operation showed the world that Russia was stuck in the past, not only militarily, but also in terms of strategic thinking. Ukraine's failure in this operation was not only a tactical victory, but also a moral victory. Each mine not only ended a train, but also an outdated understanding of war. It was a joint effort not only of the soldiers on the ground, but also of the intelligence service, engineers, and analysts. What do you think? What impact do you think this offensive by the Ukrainian army will have? What consequences will the destruction of Russian supplies have? Let us know in the comments. We read and care about your points of view.